Hello, everybody. I am Faye from OKclarity, and this week I decided to try something new, which is that I'm going to answer some of the AMA questions on a video, and we'll see how that does. So let's get right to it. So I got a lot of questions. I went through a few of them, saved them to my camera roll, and I am going to see how many we could get to. So the first one that I have over here is a very good question. So the writer says, "Thank you so much for all you do," the smiley. What makes an experience traumatic versus a hard time? Meaning two people can go through the same thing, but for one person it will be traumatic and for another it will be a hard time. I love this question because you're getting to the root of trauma, which is that trauma, a traumatic experience is really, that's exactly what it can be. It's from one person can experience a traumatic experience as traumatic, and another person can have that exact experience and not find it traumatic. And that is because trauma is really how we interpret an event. It's not the event itself that traumatizes a person. It's what we tell ourselves about the event that makes us traumatized. That doesn't mean it's our fault when we become traumatized from something. And there are many scenarios of events that would traumatize most people, but there are ways that we can interpret events that would allow us to not be traumatized by that event. And there are even ways that we can reinterpret events. So even if we get traumatized by something, or we have a traumatic event that happens to us and that we interpret as trauma, we can then go ahead and re-narrate the story for ourselves in a way that makes it less traumatic. And that is really a lot of times what therapy is all about, where we're taking something that was traumatic that we interpreted as trauma and we're re-narrating the story for ourselves in a way that empowers us, that helps us recall that experience in a way that is less traumatic, so that we are walking away with it less scarred than we would have been if we just let it store in our emotions and in our memory as traumatic. So you are spot on that there's one event that can happen to two different people, and depending on their history and depending on the way their mind and their thoughts work, and many times depending on their genetics and their chemistry and all that, one person might see that as traumatic and another person might see it as just another event that they were able to be resilient and get through. Hope that helps. Okay, let's look at another one. Let's see. Okay, I am getting engaged soon, and the family dynamic is making me so nervous too. Any advice? So first of all, mazel tov, or congratulations. That's very exciting. And I would say that it's very normal to have family drama and family dynamics, especially around something as meaningful and life transitional as an engagement or marriage. So I would encourage you to look at it as something that comes along with a massive life transition versus something that's dysfunctional and means that something's wrong with you or your family. I would try as much as possible to be proactive, maybe speak to any parties that are involved that can help mediate the trauma, the drama, so that you don't have to go through this beautiful time of your life with unnecessary drama. But at the same time, realize that there will be parts that you cannot control, and that's okay. And it's okay that it's making you nervous. And it's okay that you're also going to be nervous about other things at this time. And I would encourage you to focus on the things that you can control. So you can control your internal environment. You can control many parts of even your external environment. You can control when you get up every day and what you do every day and how you take care of yourself. And you can also control what you listen to. So if somebody in your family wants to constantly tell you about the drama, you can be like, I'm not, listening to this, so that you keep your internal world safe and secure. And it's most often not going to be necessary for you to hear every bit of the drama and the family dynamics. So that is what I would recommend. I hope that helps. Let me just take a sip of my juice because my mouth is getting dry. So the green juice, not my favorite thing, but we're going to drink it anyways. It's not as bad as like I always imagine it to be. So that's good. Okay. Anyways, let's go continue. Next question. How do I make Sundays a fun day? I find it the hardest day of the week. My depression kicks in. So I hear you totally. I would say that I love the awareness that you have that like you recognize that you struggle with depression and that it kicks in more on a Sunday, I would say that most likely it's kicking in on a Sunday because you are not as busy on a Sunday as you are during other days of the week. Maybe you're not as preoccupied. So I would recommend that you look at other days of your week, like what's the best day of your week? And I would see what are the elements of that day that make it the best day of the week. And then I would try to take those elements and put them into a Sunday. So for example, if let's say it's just that you're busy or you're doing maybe one day of the week at work, you're doing something that you actually love. So maybe on a Sunday, you can spend 2 hours, doing that thing that you really love doing and preparing like that for the week so that you're preparing ahead of time. So you might feel, even less anxious during the week. And also you're doing something that you actually like. I would say that most likely what's making Sundays so hard for you and for your depression is because it's unstructured. Structure really helps us be in control, like being in control of our external environment as much as we can really helps to tame our internal environment. So we can not always control our external environment, but there are many ways and many times that we can. So I would look at a Sunday as like a beautiful blank canvas and say like, okay, today is a day that I can control as much as I can. And how do I want to control it? How do I want to create this external environment that I can be the healthiest internally? And then, like I said, look into your week and what days and what hours of the days you function the best, and what are the things that you're doing. So maybe it's that you get to take a walk to and from work during the Monday through Friday. So then on a Sunday, you want to schedule in a walk because a walk is amazing for your mental health. And I would literally on a Saturday night and plan out my Sunday. I do this every single day. I even have my calendar right here where I can show you that I have one of these calendars that have like the hours like written out. And I will look ahead at my, the day the night before, and I'll actually put in like at what time I'm doing what. Now, do I stick to it perfectly every time? No. But the point is that when I wake up, there's no thinking like, what do I have to do? It's like all laid out for me of like, this is exactly what I want to hit from 7 to 9, and then from 9 to 12, and then from 12 to 2. And I kind of like block my days most often, depending on the day, by what I want to accomplish and what fits in those hours. So I feel like that's something that you can do, like look at every day, especially a Sunday, like a blank canvas where you have this time and you have to just now decide, okay, maybe you want to get up later on a Sunday if your schedule affords that. That's beautiful. So wake up at 9, and then from 9 to let's say 10:30 is self-care and getting dressed and maybe doing some little stretching. And then from 10:30 to 12 is preparing yourself a beautiful brunch and maybe preparing it for someone else in your family so that you can sit down and enjoy together. And then maybe from 12 to 2, you take a nice walk and listen to something and then shower. Like if showering is what you like to do in the middle of the day, you know what I'm saying? Like just really think about like, okay, then maybe from 2 to 4, you go out for a cup of coffee or a smoothie with a friend. Really try to look at the hours and like block them by what makes sense for you, for your lifestyle, for the day, and for what's going to bring you joy. But most importantly, that's going to keep your mind somewhat stimulated, but also letting yourself know that you are structured, that you have a plan, so that you're not letting yourself just be like completely open. And that means that any thoughts, any external stimuli can come and just throw you back into some sort of depressive spiral. We don't want that. So I hope that helps. Let's look at what we have next. There we are. Okay, this is a good one. How to not be jealous of my younger sister getting engaged before me. So first of all, I would say that this is a very difficult thing, and I wouldn't necessarily ask this type of question, right? Meaning nothing's wrong with your question. I'm not judging your question, but it is so normal to be jealous that I don't want you, by asking this question, you're basically telling yourself jealousy is not okay in this scenario, and I have to get rid of this jealousy. I'd rather you say, how do I deal with the jealousy that I'm feeling and all the other uncomfortable feelings that I have? Because that would at least show that you're having a bit more compassion for yourself. And I would love to see that. Whereas like how to not be jealous is like, not only are you going through something hard, but you're also telling yourself, I cannot be having the emotions that are coming along with this. Like they're not okay. So I first want to give you a virtual hug and let you know that it's okay to be jealous. And jealousy is not evil. And jealousy does not mean that you wish bad on your sister or that you don't want her to get engaged. It simply means that what you are imagining that she's feeling, you would like those feelings. That's all jealousy is. When we're jealous of somebody, we're basically feeling that we're imagining that that person is experiencing a certain feeling or a range of feelings, and we want those feelings in our life too. And when you look at jealousy in this way, it can be really game changing, because it's all of a sudden like, I don't want her husband, I don't want her, whatever it is. I just want to have those feelings. I don't need her bank account, right? I want to have the freedom that comes along with that bank account. I want to be able to do what I want or take my family on vacation. I don't want her husband. I just want to have a best friend, or I don't have to, I don't want to be in the dating world anymore. Like all of a sudden we can separate the feeling of like, oh my God, I want something bad to happen to this person, or I don't want them to have good. That is all of a sudden out of the picture when we reframe jealousy in this way. And rather we can say, I want them to have everything that they have. I simply feel like I'm imagining that they're having feelings that are very positive, and I would love those feelings with a similar scenario that would create those feelings in my life. So that's the first thing I would say. Like, let's get rid of the fact that you cannot be jealous, and let's just look at jealousy as an idea of, I would like the feelings that I'm imagining her having. And then I would ask you to really get, in touch with yourself and think to yourself, what are the feelings that I'm imagining her having? And to tell yourself, like, are there ways that I can access those feelings in my life at this time, even if I'm not engaged or getting married right now? And can I also just be okay with these feelings and accept them? And I think that just having that, first of all, compassion, and second of all, self-awareness, and recognizing that there are going to be ways, if you really do this exercise as I'm prescribing it, by thinking, what are the feelings that I'm imagining her having that I would like to have in my life? There will be ways that you can access similar feelings. So for example, if you're jealous that she is, now she has this person that's her best friend, that's her confidant, or that she's going to build a new relationship with, right? And they're going to have a beautiful relationship. So you're jealous of a relationship, right? Then you can think to yourself, like, are there other relationships in my life that I can deepen at this time, because I'm yearning for a deeper relationship? And it might very well be that it's the sister that you can even deepen the relationship with, right? Like, you might be able to be her person that leads her through this whole transition period of her life, and you can be her go-to person. I find that one of the best ways to deal with healthy jealousy, and I would consider this a healthy jealousy, is to really throw yourself into helping the other person, because you're reinforcing to yourself that you're not jealous of what they have to the extent that you don't want it for them. You want it for them so much that you're willing to help them, and you're also able to experience the joy, a bit of their joy vicariously, because you're there for them in such a deep way. So by realizing that you can, whether it's with a sister or another person in your life, or a friend or another family member, deepen a relationship, if that's the feeling that you feel like you're after, that emotional intimacy. Now, of course, there are going to be things you can't mimic in your life right now if you're not going to be getting engaged. But like I said, with jealousy, there's usually feelings that you're able to identify and then make some subtle changes in your life, even if it's just like an intentional thought process change, that's going to help you be more comfortable with that jealousy, because you realize that you have more control and agency in accessing those feelings in your life. Or it's going to be a matter of like, okay, I don't have that right now, but you know what? I trust and believe that I'm on the right path to get something similar in my life, because this is something I'm working towards, and at the right time is going to happen for me. But the last thing I want you to take away from this is to not beat yourself up for having the jealousy. It's extremely healthy, extremely normal, actually means that you're in a healthy place. It's just a matter of how you frame that jealousy for yourself. And I'm asking you to reframe it in a way that's going to help you love yourself more, be there for your sister, and most of all, be there for yourself. Hope that helps. We need another drink. This is really awkward, by the way, talking to myself on Zoom. Never done this before. I notice that when I talk, I don't breathe enough. So I get like out of breath. That makes me feel like I'm panicking, even though I'm totally not. This is definitely something I have to work on. It's like I need a breathwork coach. I think I'm going to reach out to someone on OKclarity. I'm not even joking. I really think I'm going to reach out to somebody and be like, I need you to give me breathing techniques for while I talk, because when I talk, I don't breathe, and that's not cool. Anyways, back to the regular programming. Okay. Whew. Let's breathe. Okay. Hi, my therapist suggested that we celebrate now that I'm 1 year in therapy. What are some appropriate ways to celebrate therapy anniversaries? This is a very cute question, and I would say that kudos to your therapist. I like how this therapist sounds. She sounds very sweet, or he sounds very sweet and cool. I like the idea of celebrating a 1-year therapy anniversary. I'm assuming that that's very meaningful for you. Maybe you haven't been in therapy with one therapist for that long. And I agree that that's something to celebrate. Right off the bat, I would say, like, if this was your therapist's idea, I would just be like, therapist, like, this was your idea. I would love to hear your ideas of how to celebrate. So I would definitely like bring that up to your therapist and be like, what are your ideas? But you can also simply say, you know, if you want to bring in some ideas, you might want to bring in your favorite food or your favorite drink or ice cream or a slice of cake or whatever it is, and share that with your therapist. You might want to do some coloring. You might want to play some sort of card game or a game on the phone. I mean, these are all great ideas. You might want to take a walk, depending on if that's something your therapist would be comfortable with. Yeah, I think that those are all like fine ideas of how to celebrate, but I would also say that your therapist might have better ideas. All right, here we go. How to look at myself straight in the mirror and say I'm beautiful when all I feel is ugly and fat. I'm so sorry to hear this. I want to hug you, even though I don't know who you are, because I can just imagine the self-loathing and how sad you feel. And I think that everybody knows what that feels like, to really not like themselves on a deep level during different times in their life. And I recently wrote about this actually in my newsletter, about how to feel beautiful when cliches like beauty is in the eyes of the beholder does not work. And I shared 3 ideas, and I think they're pretty powerful. So I'll try to repeat them here if I remember them. So the first one is actually science-based. Your ears hear faster than your eyes can see. Your hearing is actually your fastest sense, which is a pretty cool idea. Like, I've never known that before I heard this, which means that your ears hear whatever your mind is telling it before your eyes can see anything. So before you look in the mirror, if you're telling yourself, I'm going to see my fat stomach, I'm going to see my double chin, I'm going to see my eyebrow that's higher than the other eyebrow, right? Then when you look in the mirror, that's all you're going to see, okay? And vice versa, though. If you tell yourself, I'm going to see beautiful eyebrows, I'm going to see beautiful hair, I'm going to see a beautiful nose, I'm going to see a beautiful smile, I'm going to see beautiful wrists or beautiful hands or beautiful legs, whatever it is, you find something on your body that you appreciate and that you value. And you tell yourself, that's what I'm going to see. Or I'm going to see a hardworking person, or I'm going to see a loving mother, or a loving father, or a loving child, whatever it is. And you say that to yourself before you look in the mirror. That's what you're going to see, because your ears heard that, and your eyes are following what your ears hear. Okay. So that's number 1. That's like science-based. You do this, it's going to work. It can't not work. The question is whether you do it or not. The second thing is, I would say, is an affirmation that I once heard actually from a model, and I really liked it. I can't remember who it was, but I definitely heard it from a model. And she said that she has this affirmation for herself, which is that my looks and my body are the least important things about me. Okay, the least interesting. I think those were her words. My looks and my body are the least interesting things about me. And I love that, because again, that was coming from a model. So clearly there was value to the way she looked and her body, right? But the fact that they are the least interesting things about her was so powerful, because I think that no matter what type of model you are or lack thereof, looks and your body should always be secondary to everything else about you, okay? That doesn't mean you can't appreciate and thank God for your looks. I hope everybody feels that way, that they can look in the mirror at some point and say, thank you for giving me this face. Thank you for giving me this body. Thank you for giving me this feature or that feature. That aside, the characteristics that you have, the traits that you have, the things that you've worked on, the things that you've gone through, those should always be paramount to what you see in the mirror. And that should be what you see in the mirror. I mean, you should be able to see through the features to the actual beauty of being a complex human being that's walked this earth and gone through everything that you've gone through, and that still shows up to your life every single day with a smile, hopefully, or without a smile, and still doing what you are put on this planet to do, right? So I like that affirmation. I would say try to use that. And the third thing is another kind of like phrase or affirmation that I've heard that I really liked. And that was that beautiful choices make beautiful humans, right? Beautiful choices make us beautiful. And I love that idea as well, because it's very strength-based, it's very empowering, and it's very true. I mean, how many times have we seen somebody that's externally, officially beautiful, but we know that they are internally not beautiful, and that beauty is just completely wasted, right? Like, it's like not a beauty that we can appreciate. And how many times do we see somebody that we know is internally exquisite, and even though by typical beauty standards, externally, they wouldn't be considered that, but in everybody's eyes, they are considered that because we know about the intrinsic beauty and we know about the beautiful choices that they've made or what they've contributed to society. Beautiful choices make us beautiful. And this is not permission to go back into your past and be like, well, I made this choice that wasn't beautiful and that choice, I have every right to think I'm disgusting. Absolutely not. It's moving forward. Every single choice you make, tiny choices we're talking, not huge choices, picking up a penny and putting it into charity, holding the door open by the Dunkin' Donuts and letting the person go out before you go in, giving somebody an extra $2 tip, saying good morning to somebody, making eye contact, picking up something that fell down for somebody. The list can go on and on and on. Every tiny choice you make, and even if it's choices for yourself, whether it's making your bed when you weren't in the mood, whether it's, going on that short walk because you knew that it would be good for you, even if you weren't in the mood. Those are beautiful choices and those make you beautiful. So I want to give you the big hug and I want you to take away these 3 ideas and I hope it helps. I'm rooting for you. Let's go to the next one. What time? Where are we at? I wonder how much time we've been on here. I don't even know. Okay, we'll do a little bit more. Okay. Hi, Faye. Thanks for taking the time. These days, I feel constantly frustrated by my emotional identity, changing almost by the hour. 1 minute I'm feeling lovable and confident. Another I'm feeling ugly and unworthy. How do I keep myself chugging on with one stable mindset to tolerate all of this? So I like this question. A few thoughts. I haven't thought about this before seeing this question. I'm just gonna, let it go from whatever's on top of my head. One is I would question about hormonal, like hormones, because I think that hormones can play a role in the way we see ourselves from like sometimes hour to hour, depending on where you are. If you're a female, I'm assuming you're female just from the question. So I would just like take a check into that. It's like, is this happening around your time of the month and therefore you're feeling this way? That can be, and that's completely normal. If this is like a consistent, steady thing, maybe get your hormones checked, maybe get your blood work checked. That aside, like I'm not saying this is a medical issue or a hormonal issue. I just wanted to put that out there because I just think that there's value in just being aware of that. Like we are so complex and we're so interconnected, every single part of us, that definitely those things play a role. But all that aside, I would still say that like it's okay if your mind is kind of like jumping from thing to thing. I also don't know how old you are. So like if you're in your 18 or low 20, like, teens or 20s, low 20s, it's also okay to be a little bit more like less emotionally regulated than your typical adult. Like it just makes more sense. Not that if you're an adult, it's not okay. It's very common when you're in those kind of years. I would say that I would just get very curious. Like when you notice it, I would really become like a little FBI agent, put on your little cap and like, sunglasses and be like, okay, like what happened here? Like, and I wouldn't just get curious when you have the positive feelings. I would get curious when you have the uncomfortable negative thoughts and feelings as well. And I would think to myself like, okay, what triggered this? Was it a person? Was it a place? Was it a thing? Or was it a thought? Like, was it somewhere that I just went? Was it something that I just thought? Was it somebody that just came into my life? Was it something that I ate? Like, I would really try to get curious and try to pinpoint patterns. And you might notice that it was like, oh, actually, when this happens, it's usually right after I was scrolling on Instagram. And that's why it happens. And then it's like, okay, there's your clue. Welcome to humanity. Social media usually makes you feel bad about yourself. Okay, now you can go on with your day and realize that you're human and you should probably stay off social media. And if you do go on, have a healthier mindset before and after. You might notice that it happens when you're starving and you're hangry, but like some people experience hunger with other emotions. And it's not just that they become angry, but they become very irritable and feel very bad about themselves. So like, I would really ask of you to get curious when it happens. And when you're feeling good about yourself, I also want you to get curious. So it's like, okay, is it because I slept better last night? Is it because I actually put myself together today and I put on makeup and I got dressed and I feel good about myself? Is it because I prayed really nicely? Is it because I had a good breakfast? Really start to know yourself this way by saying like, okay, what did I do that worked? And what did I do that seemed to have not worked? And how can I do more of what worked and less of what doesn't work? I hope this helps. I think that's the end of our questions that I screenshotted. Let's see if we should take like a rapid fire of like some of them that I didn't open yet. So I might like be jaw dropped and be like, what is this question? And not say it out loud because sometimes they're very interesting, but let's see what we got. Hold on. Mm-hmm. Do this one. Okay, let's see. Here. It's so hard and discouraging finding a good therapist that takes insurance and is a right fit when deciding to go for therapy is hard enough itself. I agree with you, and my thoughts are with you. And this is exactly why I created OKclarity. And I'm sure you know about OKclarity, so I'm assuming that either you looked on OKclarity and you didn't find somebody that you were looking for. I'm hoping that you did look there. And also, if you didn't find what you were looking for, that you completed the Match Me form, because sometimes we have new providers going live on their, on our site every single day. And therefore, meaning their profiles get published every day, because there's a process from when a professional joins us till they get published. It can take up to a week. And therefore, every single day, there are different professionals that are actually being published. So you wouldn't see them if they're in the process of getting published. You would only be able to see them and find them if they are already published. So therefore, I would encourage you to complete the short Match Me form on our site, which is completely free and anonymous, and we can try to help you that way. Otherwise, you can reach out to other organizations that help with finding a therapist. You can check back in with us every single week. You're never a bother. And I would just say, keep on trying. There's also clinics, of course, that you can go to. I'm assuming that you either tried that or didn't think to try that, but there are multiple clinics all over the world, hopefully within your states. I'm not going to recommend them just because I don't know where you're located. But I would say that try OKclarity, try the Match Me form, keep trying if you want to. And if you didn't find something sooner, from either reaching out to an agency or a clinic. Hope this helps. Let's see what else we've got here. Is it real depression when going through a hard time brings on depression, but once it passes, I'm okay again, and how to deal with it? This is a very good question. So I would never diagnose depression, regardless of what you told me on a AMA question, unless you said like, I have a diagnosis of depression, then I'll be like, okay, if that's what you say, then I'll take it. But I wouldn't say that this is I wouldn't say it's real depression or fake depression. I don't like labels. If you know anything about me, I find them to be really worthless. So I would just say, like, let's drop the whole idea of like whether it is depression or not depression. Like, why is that really important? You're feeling really bad when you go through a hard time. Most often you would not get a diagnosis of depression for something that's like brought on by a situation. So I would tend to say that regardless of whether or not it has the label, even if it most likely doesn't have a label of depression, I would still say, let's deal with it. And how to deal with that is to recognize that hopefully this will pass, especially if you know that it came from something specific. And what are the tools that you have in your toolbox to help you get through a hard time? So whether that's praying, whether that's reaching out to a friend, whether that's reaching out to a therapist, a rabbi, a mentor, family, being social, distracting yourself in a healthy way, exercising, just having movement. When I say exercising, I don't mean like, running 6 miles. I mean, walking every single day, spending time in nature, getting enough sleep, getting enough food, doing all the things that help you function optimally, even when you're not in the mood. That's the biggest bang for your buck. Like, it's not supposed to be easy and you have to do it anyway. That's kind of the way it is. I know it sounds harsh, but you know that I love you and I care, and this is just the way it is. So that's how to deal with it. And whether it's real or fake depression, I think that that's a mood point. So I'm going to let that go, and I hope that you can too. And I hope that helps. Let's see what else we've got. Sip of green juice. Guys, I need you to tell me if you like this or if this is like totally pathetic. So if I end up posting it, like, I don't even know. We'll have to have someone on my team create like some sort of cover for it, and then we'll post it and you guys will give me feedback. When I say guys, I include girls. It's just easier to say guys. How weird, like I'm drinking green juice and being recorded and not even talking. Okay, let's go on. Do a few more. Okay, this is an intense question. Heads up. I just came out of a 5-week hospital stay and I can't go back to work yet. I'm really sad. Being in the hospital was really helpful, but it messed with my mind. I can't remember things the way I used to. Can you help me with what I shall do? I want to go back to work. So I first want to give you a hug because it sounds like so hard and so devastating. I'm sorry. I'm happy to hear that overall the hospital stay was helpful. So that lets me know that like at least you got the help that you needed. I would say this, like, you got to give yourself time. I know that you want to go back to work, and I'm sure that's because you like work and you want things to go back to normal. I can't tell you whether or not you can go back to work yet. I'm assuming that you'll go back as soon as you feel like you could go back and it makes sense for you to go back. I would just tell you like this, like, be easy with yourself. Like, God willing, your mind will come back. Things will get better. Things will go back to somewhat the way they used to in terms of like you feeling better and stronger and hopefully better than the way they were prior to your hospital stay. But like, it makes sense, especially if you were on medications and you were in a totally different environment, to feel like this brain fog, to feel this kind of not yourself. I'm just trying to think of something similar that I've been through when I had COVID. I think like it was a year and a half ago. And I had like a pretty bad case. I mean, it wasn't a bad case compared to like what other people had, but it was like COVID, you know? And I remember having brain fog after, and it freaked me out. Like, I was like, oh my God, my brains are the best part of me, and now they're messed up. And like, I remember crying to my mom and being like, you have to pray for my brains to come back. Like, I was so freaked out that my brains, like something happened to my mind. And it was a typical symptom that people said after COVID, they had brain fog, and some people had it for a very long time. And I was really nervous about it lasting for a very long time. Or forever. Of course, that was like my anxiety. It was like, what if it never goes back to regular? And I always have this brain fog. Thank God it totally passed, and my brain is, you know, feels just as good, if not better. Thank God. So that's kind of my message to you. Like, in the thick of things, it feels like things are really in a bad place, especially when you're dealing with your mind feeling like it's messed up. Then you don't even have your mind on your side to kind of calm you down, which is why I'm trying to do that for you. I'm trying to use my mind, which is in a healthy, good place, to help you with your mind that seems like it's still a little bit unsettled based on what you went through, understandably, and to reassure you that I believe that things will settle down, and that it makes sense that in your situation that you're in right now, you can't see that and you can't hold on to that, and that's okay. And therefore you can lean on me, letting you know that I truly believe that now is not the time to judge whether or not, and you know, you'll be better. I believe you will, and you need to give it time. So you need to give it time. You need to just like surrender into the space that you're in, which is, again, I'm not trying to say my situation with COVID is the same as what you're going through at all, but just to give you that idea of like, I kind of had to surrender. Like, there was nothing to do other than be like, to pray and to just wait it out and to be like, I will get better, God willing, and to trust and to go through those days of like fogginess and not feeling great, and just really like softening into it and not trying to put on pressuring myself with what I thought I needed to pressure myself with, and realizing like, life is long, you'll get to do what you got to do, and give yourself this time. Be easy with yourself, be soft with yourself, enjoy the time that you have now, even though it doesn't feel enjoyable, which I totally understand. All right, let's see if we could do another. Okay. This is a good question. Maybe we'll end here for now. Hi, I'm a year in therapy and still struggling to open up and connect to my therapist. I have a hard time being vulnerable in general, wondering if maybe we're not a good fit, or this is my struggle showing up. So this is a very good question. And I would say that it can both be true, right? Like, it could be either or. I mean, like, it's usually not both, but either you're not a good fit. It could be both. It could be that you're not a good fit, or this is your struggle showing up in therapy, that you're not able to open up and be vulnerable. It's most likely that, I would say. That's more likely, not necessarily most likely, or both, right? Like, it could be that she's not a good fit for you, or he's not a good fit for you, and this is your struggle. So like, it can be any of those three options. The best and only advice that I have for you is to speak this out with your therapist and to say like, hey, I'm really struggling to open up and be vulnerable. What do you think this is about? Can you help me? And I know that you know the answer, meaning like, you know if this is a you thing or if this is a therapist thing or both. And another way to test this out is to ask yourself, like, was I able to open up a little bit more? Like, a year in therapy is not a decade in therapy. So like, if you were able to open up over the year a little bit more with each month, with each session, whatever it is, right? Even if there was 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, like, that's okay too. But as long as you were making some progress, that's a sign that you probably are a good fit. And the fact that you're not able to open up more is really your struggle. And that's okay. Like, that's why you're in therapy. Like, kudos, that's great. And just work through it. But it doesn't mean that your therapist is not a good fit. And it could be that they aren't, but I would try to look at the litmus test would be, did I open up at all? And then another litmus test would be, is this my therapist? Is this my struggle, or is it my therapist, or is it both? And only you can answer that honestly. But I would start with having a conversation with your therapist and getting very honest with yourself, and with the progress that you have made or that you haven't made, and whether this is you and your struggle, and are you willing? Like, it's being open and vulnerable with your therapist is really a question of willingness. It's trust. It's many things. It's trusting them enough and having a good relationship. But like, if you have that relationship and you have that basic trust, it's you taking that leap that's uncomfortable to be vulnerable. And that doesn't mean you have to start with like whatever it is that's hard for you, but starting with something is the only thing that you can do. Like, there's no magic words or things that's going to do it for you. It's about you doing the work. And that's what makes you get better. Like, that work is what makes you live a better life outside of therapy. So I hope that helps. I feel like I can go on for hours, by the way. This is fun. It's turning fun in some weird way. So yeah, I mean, there's still so many more that I would love to answer. I didn't even get through any of them. So like, I feel like this is so crazy because I thought this would be faster, but maybe it's not because I just like to talk. Maybe we will do a part 2. We shall see. Let's see how this goes. Alrighty, everybody. Thanks for everything. Thanks for being who you are. Thanks for listening. Thanks for following. And please, please, please let me know how this was for you. If it was like completely cringe, let me know. I can handle it. Alrighty. Take care.